Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today, something a little bit different for you, but honestly, it's what I've been working on. And people often ask me, how do I decide what projects I'm going to share with you guys on what I'm doing? And my common response to that is that I'm basically going to show you whatever I'm working on in the shop. Well, today we're going to take a look, not what I'm working on in the shop, but what I'm working on outside the shop, because that quite honestly has been eating up most of my time. I got back from my big road trip well, it was a week ago yesterday. It was when I rolled back in. So I've been basically home a week. And since I've been home, I have been spending most of my time that I have available to do work, not working in the shop, but working outside the shop, cleaning up from Hurricane Helene that came rolling through here while I was away on my 2-week road trip. I shared with you guys a while back that the hurricane did hit us pretty hard. The eye wall kind of went right over the edge of my property. And this little area that I live in, unfortunately, was hit pretty hard, all things considered. Now, when I say hard, you know, we didn't have any structural damage. We didn't have anything, you know, life-threatening, didn't have anything, you know, where we had to, it was, you know, do or die type situations, but it left a mess. And the biggest thing that I'm having to deal with is trees being knocked down. I had somewhere between 1 and 2 dozen trees, mostly big pine trees, that got blown over. Fortunately, none of them hit the house or the shop or anything like that. Didn't block any roads or driveways, but left a big mess nonetheless. And that's what I have been spending most of my time working on. So behind me here is a Leland cypress tree. This was actually a Christmas tree, a live Christmas tree that was planted out here after Christmas one year, and you can see it's laid over. Not completely down this one, but gonna have to cut it up, and that's one that I just haven't gotten to yet to get done. So I thought in today's video, since this is what I've been working on, I'd show you guys some of the work. I've had a lot of guys telling me they want to, you know, kind of see how things look. Unfortunately, when I got home, I just kind of hit the ground running. I got out the chainsaw and just started cutting things up. I didn't get the camera out. I didn't really do any before pictures. And we've done a lot of work, but I've still got a lot of work to do. But I thought I'd kind of give you an update on where we're at and show you some of the work that I've got done around here. So let's take a look at what this hurricane did to us. So I'll start out, this is an area that we've kind of cleaned up pretty good. And this is kind of just a wooded area next to my house. It was a wooded area. And you can see what basically happened is it just blew these trees over. The stumps just came up out of the ground. We had about 9 inches of rain with the storm, and that got the ground good and wet. And with the wind that came in behind it, these trees just laid over and made a big mess to clean up. It didn't help the fact that about not even a year ago, this past winter, I came in here and thinned the trees in these areas. This was a lot thicker with these big pine trees, and we thinned them out. Actually had a logging crew that was in the area, and I had them cut most of the trees behind my house, where I want to build a pond eventually one day. But while they were here, I had them thin out these trees up here, and that hurt us because when you thin the trees out, the trees take a greater wind load. They don't have the other trees around them to protect them from the wind, and they take more wind on them like this. It kind of takes them a couple of years to kind of get strong enough to hold up in a big storm. Normally it's not a big problem unless you get a big storm like this, but yeah, we got the storm, so it just laid over these trees. Like I said, I lost about a dozen. There's another wooded area kind of on the other side of my driveway that had similar results, just laying these trees over. So we got in here with the chainsaw and cut these things up, got all the limbs off. And I'll show you the logs. I'm saving the logs. We're going to take them out to the museum, to the sawmill, and we'll try to make something useful out of them. But you can see the mess that was left behind. Now, I have got in here and kind of cleaned this area up. Fortunately, right after I retired a couple of months ago, I bought a skid steer. I was needing a tractor, forklift. I had to turn in my tractor that I had been using that belonged to my company that I work for, but I was able to use it around the house occasionally. And I bought a skid steer, so that has been very helpful. I was actually able to borrow from a friend of mine a grapple that on the front of that skid steer, which really helped with cleaning this stuff up. We were able to just come in here and, after I got everything kind of cut up, pick the limbs up and haul it off. Still got a mess to kind of come in here and finish cleaning up, but it's a lot better than it was. These are pretty much the logs that I was able to salvage from the pines that fell over. You can see there's quite a pile out here, and this pile is going to get bigger before I get through. This was pretty much just the trees that were blown over in the storm. I've still got a couple that are leaning real bad that I'm going to have to come in here and get sawed down, and that's going to probably add a few more logs to the pile. And my thought here is I'm going to save as much of this as I can. We're going to take it out to the museum. They've got, of course, a steam-powered sawmill out there, and we can hopefully turn some of this wood into some lumber. I've actually been wanting to do a couple of timber frame projects around the house, so I've got to figure out how I need to get this stuff cut up, what size pieces I need or whatever. But my thought is I may try to turn this into some beams that we can use in timber framing. And just when I built my shop, there's actually some big timbers in there, and I actually cut some trees here on my property. Actually, when I was clearing the land for the shop, we saw those on the steam-powered sawmill, and I was able to utilize them like that. So I kind of want to do something similar. But anyway, quite a few trees here. These are some longer ones. These I think are 20-foot long, and those are 16-foot long, roughly, logs. And like I said, we're not even through with that yet, but a lot of trees. And this part right here, cutting the logs up, that's the easy part. You just cut them, and with my skid steer and the grapple, it was easy to just pick them up and stack them up. The fun part was cleaning up all the tops out of those trees that had the all the limbs and stuff. Like I said, we sawed all that up, and again, using the grapple on the skid steer, we were able to pick it up and got a big burn pile going. And like I said, I'm not even through yet. We were just getting up what was on the ground. I've still got a bunch of trees that, I say a bunch, probably 4 or 5 trees that are going to have to be sawed down still and cut up. But we're getting it done, one little bit at a time. Just some more of the tree trunks that were laid over from the wind and the hurricane, and these I will get in here and get dug up. I've actually got on my skid steer, I've got a stump bucket that is made to kind of dig these things up. So I will eventually get in here and do that, get those cleaned up, get them dug out, and we'll shake most of the dirt off of them back into the holes and take them down there to the burn pile. See, there's another one down there. So big mess, but it could have been a lot worse. These trees could have been through the house or my shop or something like that. And fortunately, the way the wind was blowing, that did not happen. But still a lot of work to be done. But we're like I said, just a little bit of time. So far, I've pretty much done all the cleanup work myself. I haven't had anybody helping me. Just do a little bit every day and get it done. But unfortunately, that's been eating into my shop time. You can kind of see the shop up there, and back behind my shop, which is back behind my house, I have got a little bit of land back here that we cleared out, like I said, this past winter. And my thought is I really want to eventually build a pond back here. I had some loggers next door that were clear cutting some land, and I just went ahead and they bought my timber in here and went ahead and cleared it out for me, so I didn't have to get that done. So I've got this big open area back here that we've actually been in here digging stumps with the skid steer as I have time, and as it's dry enough. We've had a really wet year this year. It's been too much water, too much mud back here to do a whole lot. But anyway, this is where I've got a big burn pile going, and I've just been hauling everything that's pretty much not salvageable, the limbs, the smaller pieces of tree trunk and stuff that's split up or whatever, too short, not usable, for sawing lumber. I've just been piling it up out here, and this is gonna turn into a big burn pile. Be a big bonfire here shortly. Probably would have already lit it off, except I got to go back out of town again this weekend with my wife and her parents, and I'm just going to wait till I get back so I don't have the fire potentially burning while I'm gone. I'd rather just make sure, because it's going to probably take several days for this to burn completely up, but that's a big pile. And I hate to burn it. Fortunately, down here in the southeast where I'm at, you know, particularly after the hurricane, it's wet. Everything's wet. You can see there's running water through here. Very low chance of creating any kind of forest fire or anything like that. This is actually a time of the year when burning is done commonly. They do a lot of control burns. Really, the control burns are done probably a little bit later than this during the winter time, but still, it's a good time of year for burning. So I know a lot of people in the West in some places would see that, hear that in horror, but that is a pretty accepted thing in this part of the world to burn this stuff. So that's what we're going to do. It's just going to cost too much money to haul it off and have to get it chipped or something like that, and then you're just creating something that goes in a landfill or something. So we can take care of it with a match, and that's what we'll end up doing. So and there'll be a lot more. Like I said, I want to go ahead and get this burned before I get my pile any bigger. And compared to a lot of the burn piles I see coming in this area with all the trees that have been lost, mine's pretty small even compared to some. I've got some friends who are in the pecan business that have big orchards of big pecan trees, some pecan trees 100 years old, and it's just totally leveled some of these pecan orchards. I mean, they've lost 100 years of growth in some cases, and yeah, there's some big burn piles, unfortunately, in those areas, and that's bad. When you lose an orchard, I mean, it takes years to get a tree that will even produce, and some of these guys have just been totally wiped out. So, guys, in the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty darn fortunate. Like I said, we had some damage. I've got some roof damage. I'm gonna have to put a new roof on the house eventually. It's not anything that's like leaking or anything. I got a couple of tarps up there in a couple of places, but you know, again, it's not like it blew my roof off. I got people that live just a few miles to the east of here who had a lot higher winds than I did, and they lost their roof, and the fact that their roof is gone, not just a few shingles missing. So, you know, I'm counting my blessings. This could have been a whole lot worse. I had a girl that my daughter went to school with. She was actually one of my former 4-H'ers back when I was a county agent many years ago. And I saw pictures of her and her husband's house over near Vidalia, Georgia, it took the roof completely off the house. I mean, just gone. The walls were standing and at least half the roof was just blown away. So, you know, these things can be serious. We're very fortunate that it wasn't worse than it was. And really just even a couple of miles to my east, like I said, we were right on the edge of that eye wall coming up through this hurricane. And just a couple of miles, 5 miles to the east, the damage just gets exponentially worse. And 5 miles to my west is exponentially less. Like I said, we were just kind of we were right in that sweet spot. And I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't here to witness it. My wife tells me it was pretty bad. My neighbors tell me it was pretty bad, but it almost looks like maybe we may have had a little even small tornado or something that kind of came through this little area, because there's a little swath right here. My neighbor and another house up here, it's like trees are just laid over big time, and then you look around us and not so much. So I'm, you know, a lot of the people who were actually here during the storm are wondering if, you know, not a big, huge tornado, but these hurricanes often have tornadoes associated with them, and kind of wonder maybe a little tornado didn't come through here and cause some of this damage that I'm dealing with. But regardless, tornado, hurricane, it doesn't matter. It was a lot of wind and a lot of damage. But we're very fortunate. I'm very, very pleased that it could have been so much worse, and because so many people are suffering a lot worse than I am. I think I mentioned in my last video that the power was out. Our power did get restored. I think we were without power here for about 4 days. And I have a little generator, it's a portable generator, but it's enough to pretty much power most of the house. And we were able to, yeah, that was fun. I had to talk my wife through the process of getting all that hooked up and running while I wasn't here. Yeah, I'm the bad guy on that one, but we were able to get that done. So she did have at least enough power to have, you know, lights and keep the well running so they could have water and go to the bathroom and take a shower. They were able to run, we have 2 air conditioning units in the house, one for upstairs and downstairs. They were able to run one at a time. They couldn't run them both at the same time. And that's another thing. When we have these hurricanes, it's often the heat that kills you after the storm passes and when you don't have no power. And it can get really hot down here in the south. And even this time of year, I'm nearly sweating just out here standing outside, not even working right now. I don't know what the temperature is. Probably, I mean, it's probably only in the 80s, but still the sun's out and it's warm and the humidity's high. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. I've got some more cleanup to do. I am going to get back in the shop and we're going to get some more content created. I have been able to slip out there and do a few little small projects, but this has been top priority for me, trying to get this stuff done. And part of my thing is I'm racing against the clock. Even though we got 9 inches of rain, we've still got standing water. It's still very wet here. It hasn't rained since the hurricane, which has been almost 3 weeks ago now. So things are starting to dry out a little bit. I know that when toward the end of November, it starts raining and it stays really wet all through the winter. And some of this stuff is going to be really hard to do when I'm having to deal with the mud and everything else. I'm trying to get this done before we get back into our winter rainy season. So this is a top priority for me to get this stuff knocked out right now. Like I said, I wouldn't say it's dry here by any means right now after all that rain we had, but it's dry enough to get this done in a month or two. This winter time, you know, my skid steer and everything else won't be able to stand up out here. It'll be so wet. So we're just going to try to get it knocked out. And guy, this little joker here has been the lifesaver. It has really allowed me to do so much more work. Right after I retired, like I was mentioning before, I had a tractor that I had at work that I was able to use at home, and it got used. You know, I got 8 1/4 acres of land out here. It's not a huge place, but you know, there's always stuff to be done. I was using that little tractor all the time, and really it had a loader on it. I used the loader as a forklift I needed in the shop all the time. So when I retired, I knew I needed to have something both to work around here, but also the forklift capabilities in the shop. And I opted to go with a little skid steer. This is a Takahashi, or Takachi, however you say it, TL 240. It's about an 85 horsepower skid steer. This one's about 10 years old. It doesn't have that many hours on it. It's actually been pretty low hours, and overall it's in pretty decent shape. I've had to do some maintenance to it or what have you. You guys saw having to replace some seals in the hydraulic cylinder. You know, nothing major, but man, it is a workhorse, and I've been able to use it. So right now I got the bucket on it. You can swap these implements out on the front. This is the grapple that, and I don't own this piece. This was one I borrowed actually from the same guy that I bought the skid steer from, but that on this grapple, it's kind of like got a root rake, and that front part opens up and closes, so you can actually go in there like a hand and just reach down and pick up stuff and haul it off. And when I was getting those limbs and stuff like that, man, it was great. You just went in there and grab a big pile of them and take it to the burn pile and dump it. Man, it saved me a lot of work. And I spent about 8 hours just building that burn pile down there. And this thing is strong. I mean, I showed you those tree trunks a while ago. I was able to pick up 2 of those at a time, and it just picked it up like it didn't even know anything was there. So really, really been a helpful tool. And this piece here, this is a stump bucket. I mentioned it before. This is I actually bought this right after I got it because I got a bunch of stumps I've been digging up after we cut that timber. And this is gonna be what I use to dig those stumps up there. Again, this mounts on the front. That front bucket on it is kind of, you could think of it as kind of a backhoe shovel, but instead of, you know, working as a scooping it out, this is on the front of the skid steer, but I can dig down real deep with that and cut through the roots and whatever. And Then it's got that grapple on the front of it that clamps down. Normally that top part would just be out of the way while you're digging, but then when you get ready to pick that stump up, you just, again, grab a hold of it. It picks the whole stump up, and I can haul it off. And those stumps up there, they're big, but it'll handle it. This has been a lifesaver. Like I said, I bought this right after I got the skid steer, and I've already used it a bunch, and it's going to get used a lot more. And somewhere around here I got a set of forks that go on it. Like I said, I use that when I need the forklift capability in the shop. But those implements have really helped with this whole mess that we've been having to clean up out here. It hurt me to have to write the check to buy that skid steer, but I don't know what I'd have done without it. It's been a lifesaver. Well guys, I'm mainly doing this just because I want you to know what's going on and why I'm not in the shop working on things and creating content like I really needed to. This was at a very inopportune time because, like I've said, this hurricane hit while I was on the road on a road trip for 2 weeks and out of the shop for 2 weeks, and then come home and it looks like I'm gonna be spending a couple of weeks cleaning up the mess. And while I am able to get a little bit of time in the shop to work on things, I'm not getting a lot done right now because I'm having to deal with stuff that's important, it needs to be done. Bear with me. I'm gonna make time in the shop. We're gonna continue to putting content out there, but things are moving at a snail's pace around here right now, unfortunately. And hopefully we'll get this mess all cleaned up here pretty soon and be back in the shop full time working on the projects that really want to get cranked out for you guys. And yeah, again, counting my blessings. This thing could have been a whole lot worse. You know, at least it's not like the guys up in the Carolinas, up in the mountains that got all the massive rainfall and flooding. You know, with hurricanes, the wind damage, while it can be bad, it's usually nothing compared to the flood damage. The flood damage is where the real damage is, and we didn't have any flood damage here, at least not at my place, and really not in the area. I mean, we had the rain to create the floods, but because in South Georgia where I'm at, it's fairly flat, so you don't have those, you know, like in the mountains, you have more of a canyon. When you have a lot of rain, it runs down through there. There's no way for that water to spread out. Down here, that water can spread out in those low-lying areas, and most of those are wetlands anyway, because when we have our rainy season in the wintertime, they're full of water. So, you know, fortunately when this one hit, it had gotten kind of dry around here. So fairly dry around here. So there was plenty of room for that water to go. We didn't get the flood damage, but the wind damage, yeah, that's a whole another thing. Just counting my blessings, like I've said so many times before. Guys, with that, I'm gonna sign off, get out of here, get back to work, and get things done so that we can get back in the shop and making more content. With that, we're gonna sign off. We'll catch you guys on the next video. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thumbs up and comments, always greatly appreciated. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon and PayPal. Really helps me out a lot. And as always, again, just thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.